Recently, a user asked on Reddit Cypress thread about a problem he was having. The application was displaying an account number, which is a 9-digit number, and the user was asking how to write a test. This is the test that he wrote, and it wasn't working. So let me help him out. I'm gonna write just this test, and here's what it's doing. It's failing right away without waiting for the application to actually show an account number. So the first problem is the lack of retries. The message appears after about 1 second, but by then our application, or our test rather, has already finished running. Let's look at the code. So we're getting the divs, we invoking text. Well, this is a problem. We don't want to get all the divs on a page, but we'll deal with it later. We're getting the text, we are finding the pattern using a regular expression, getting the value, and confirming value. We're using a sci-then callback, and as you know, sci-then command does not retry. It runs once, and if it fails, it just fails the test. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna change this sci-then to sci-should. We're only using synchronous calls inside the callback, so it's fine. So now we're getting somewhere. Notice that the test keeps retrying, and this time it actually gets a couple of matches. And it gets a couple because there are multiple divs on the page. We want to limit ourselves to the div with that account number. So now I really want to replace sci-get with my favorite sci-contains command. Contains, let me spell it correctly. Okay, so it can accept a selector plus text or a selector plus a regular expression. So we can use the same expression right here. So this will find just a single element of type div that's the closest to the text that matches this regular expression. We can even improve the expression just a little bit. For example, we know that it has to start with a digit and end with a digit. And instead of 1 or more, we can say has to have 9 digits. Let's see if this works now. Oops, our div actually contains text, so never mind, we're gonna do it later. Okay, so we're getting the list of matches, but we are only looking for a single string. So we can change this to account 0. And now notice it keeps retrying until the account number text appears, matches this number, and everything is fine. We can clean up this even more. So in this case, we already know that there is a regular expression, and then we find the pattern again. One thing that I like doing is giving regular expressions a name. So I'll say regex, and this is this regex. So now we can say account regex, and we can use it right here, and we can remove extra line. Perfect. Another thing we can do is to say, okay, you're trying to find this expression, and right now we're just saying index 1 in that array returned by the regular expression match. But we can do something better. We can give a capture group a name. So in this case, it's going to be something like optional account. Okay. So let's see if this works, and then I'll explain what's happening. Oops, question mark has to be in front of a capture group name. And we need to grab the div. So right now it grabs that value from this HTML of the app that's usually is present right here. So it finds it right here. So I will do the following. Have a div with initial text ... and then that ... is replaced by the actual number. So it keeps retrying, finds the match, and then the test passes. And here's what we can do. Since we're using a capture group, what can happen here? We can say account is equal to the capture group's account. So when we're evaluating a regular expression with a named capture group, all the captured expressions, strings, will be in the group subject under the property, which is the name of a capture group. So we can say it like this. Okay, and now we can clean up it even more, because notice what we're doing here. We're getting an element, we are invoking text, so we're passing the string as a subject, and then we are calling match method on that string. It's the same as invoking match and then this argument on the string. So this will be the same result as this line. So we can say number and remove it, and it should work the same way. Notice what we do right here. We take that subject number and we're just getting a nested property groups.account. Cypress has a command for that called groups and then nested property. So this will yield an account, and so let's say account. So at this point it already is a string, so we don't have to take an array and take its first element. Okay, so that's great. Now if we have a value and all we're doing is calling expect, well, we can use an implicit assertion. So should equal and then the expected value. So we just rewritten our should callback with a series of queries that just work on a current subject, like from the element getting a string, calling match on that string with a regular expression, returns an object, getting its nested property, and then this yields a value, and then confirming the value. We can simplify it even more. Our whole problem is that this whole element doesn't have good selector for the account. This is the piece of information that deserves its own markup, so we can select it. So what we can do right here is say, okay, span ID, let's say account, right, ACC. Okay, so when the account gets the actual number, we need to do the following. So this would be just ACC, and we can say, okay, so this is the final thing, right? We are in the application getting the span, setting the account number. The test can now be simplified. Instead of using regular expression, if we know the value, for example, we can say site contains, and instead of a div, we can say account, right? We're looking for account element to have this text and this retries. We can even get the element, invoke text, and say should equal as a string to the expected value. Works exactly the same way. If the assertion fails, goes back to the site get and then site invoke again and again. If you don't know the value, we can still use contains and do now actual 9-digit number, and now it ends with that, right? Because now we know that this element is limited to just 9 digits. And if we know the initial value, we can say, okay, if you get this element, we can say should not have text ... So this covers the initial period. Once it doesn't have a text, it will have a number. So we can say invoke text should match, and now the regular expression again, 9 digits, and that's it. And if you want to use that, you get this value like account inside then, and then maybe call other commands, or simply like log it to a command log account. Okay, so we showed a solution to the original problem. We made it elegant, and then I showed how to update the application code so that this piece of information has its own selector, which will make writing a test so much simpler. So the full recipe with all the steps is on my site, glebahmedov.com/cypress examples. I'm gonna link it in the description of this video.